What's going on YouTube? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. I'm in the food forest today. We're a couple weeks away from winter, and as you can see, a lot of the trees, they've dropped all their leaves. Everything's gone really dormant, and the system now is just refertilizing itself. If you can look down below the trees here, you can see it's going to be feeding itself with its own leaf drop. Year after year, more of its own leaf drop is going to be feeding this system. It's going to get closer and closer to becoming sustainable. Because a sustainable system is any system that actually produces more than it takes to create and maintain itself throughout its lifetime. This coming year is going to be the 6th year. Every year previous, we brought the wood chips in, and that's really raised the fertility quickly, brought us to a system of high production, even faster than if it happened naturally. So now that the system year after year is maintaining itself and becoming more sustainable, I'm gonna actually move over to the rest of the property. I'm gonna get some of that going. I wanna bring you guys along. We're gonna start a new food forest from scratch, and I'm gonna go week by week to show you guys how I do it. Let's go. Throughout the year, one of the questions I get more than anyone is what's the size of your food forest, what's the size of the garden. It's really hard to tell when the trees and everything are in here, because I think when they're in, it makes it look even larger. Now that all the leaves have dropped out, you can take a look through and see the size of it. It's probably smaller than you thought, but we actually get really good production out of this small space, as you see in the harvest videos. This is where we focused all of our time, in this section here, working on it, building the fertility. Now, we're gonna move out into this section over here, spread our design and a lot of the things we've learned onto this section. So I really plan on this one being way better than any other. And like I said, I'm gonna bring you guys along for the week by week process. Show you how to turn something like what was a lawn into something like that, a food forest with high production, little work. So this section here, in the past, we've already gone through and wood chipped a lot of it, but we really never grew anything. It was just an area that we wanted to prepare for the future. But you can see here, as I kneel down, there's a lot of wild violet. It's just overrun this section. So what we're gonna have to do is come through and dig a lot of this out. In the past, we only put a thin layer of wood chips down because we got shaded out too bad by this Bradford pear tree. We could only grow some lettuces and things like that, so we didn't invest too much time into it. But now I'm gonna take that Bradford pear down so we can actually turn this property into a higher production setting. And now that I'm pushing my influence of design onto the rest of the property, some of the things are gonna change. For instance, you can see I've got the chickens in here. I've got them going really throughout the property working, eating a lot of stuff, just free ranging on their own. But in the future, I'm gonna have them penned up only in their section because I'm gonna be growing in all this area here and then have enough food and enough fresh greens to be able to feed them throughout the whole year in that small section, building up the fertility in that section, then moving all that fertility into my vegetable gardens, into my food forest, and create a system that works in harmony with no pollution, with no waste, where any of the products of one thing are used in another. So what I'm gonna do here is put a nice thick layer of wood chips down, but before I do that, I wanna take out a lot of these wild violets, especially the bigger ones that I can see. This way I don't have to fight it in the future. But to compensate for that, I am gonna put even thicker wood chips than I regularly would. So now I'm gonna grab a shovel so I can dig this stuff out. All right, let's dig out some of the big obvious ones here. Like I know I got a section here that needs to be dug out. This section here, I know I can get these big ones out. This will really save me in the future. But before you're even doing any of this, it's important to find a site. Get good site selection. Know where you're gonna wanna plant all the stuff or start your food forest. For instance, this here area here, it's a little too shaded because of this Bradford pear tree behind me, but I know in the future I'm gonna be taking that out. So I'm gonna get this section ready to grow. This way come spring, everything's ready to go. I'll have that tree out and we'll get this system moving. And then in this winter, I can spend a lot of my time researching, finding out what varieties grow locally that grow well in my location. This way, once I get a tree in, I know it's a good investment. I'm not wasting my time or my money with just some local variety that's not gonna perform for you. Something that's not disease resistant, something that's not pest resistant. We wanna get the right stuff in the first time. So what I'm gonna do is just continue to take out any of these big areas of wild violet because they really come back a lot. They're perennial and they're edible, you can eat them. They're pretty good, you can put them in a salad, they don't taste bad, but they just grow everywhere so much. Areas that I want to focus my attention on and grow stuff in, I want to be growing what I want to grow. Tomatoes and stuff like that. Not just invasive wild species like this. I can find this growing almost anywhere. After I've got this all dug out with the big invasive weeds, I'm going to start moving the wood chips into here. And you notice I'm not going to put anything down. In my previous videos, I've talked about if you're growing over grass or something, you're going to want to put down some contractor's paper or something, then a thick layer of wood chips about 4 to 6 inches on an annual garden. But here, I'm going to go even deeper. I'm going to go about 10 or 12 inches to make sure I combat this wild violet. Then I'm going to transplant most of my stuff into here and only dig out small sections. This way the wild violet can't come up where the wood chips are thick, but I can be growing stuff in small areas. After I have this section all dug out of the wild violet, I'm going to start moving the wood chips in. And you guys said in that previous wood chip video I made, you were like, James, you're doing too much work moving all those wood chips, going to pick them up yourself. And you're right, I definitely was. And that wasn't the ideal situation. That's not usually how I like to do it, but I didn't have someone drop any off. Luckily, just recently my brother saw a tree company just around the street, had a full thing of wood chips. I called them up, they dropped them off. We got the fresh stuff. We're about to move it in. This is the good stuff, the stuff I really like, and we're gonna get it in the perfect timing in the fall. This new garden area, it's gonna blow up. We're gonna be harvesting lots of food, short amount of time. The best way to do it. Some people might think it's funny how excited I can get about something like wood chips, but this is the good stuff. You can see it's already starting to cook down. I talked about in my previous video, if you have termites or something, you might want to cook them up because you get the hot composting when you got the fresh stuff. Look at the steam coming up. This is hot, this is cooking up. If I wanted, I could allow this to cook all winter. Man, this is really nice in here. So warm, I almost want to sit inside. But look at that, cooking up, breaking down. So if you wanted, you could leave this section like here and cook it up all winter. But I want to actually move it into the garden. This way, all the stuff that's going to break down in this hot composting will actually break down in the section where I want it to break down. It'll actually provide food for the worms and everything right away. It might be silly, but I'm so excited for this stuff. I feel like a kid in a candy store. I think this stuff is quality enough to make actually a wood chip montage. Let's go.
Where I used to end was where you start. You were the only one. Now I see your eyes from too far. You were the only one. Careful,
As you guys can see, this section here, I got a lot of work to do, but I'll have Tuck help me out. It's always good. He's always a good helper. You got to have someone help you out in the garden. But I got a lot of work to do in here to load all this up with wood chips, to finish digging out all the stuff here. But that's Act 1, Scene 1. Get this stuff in the ground in the fall. Then after that, you can do your research, what kind of trees and everything you want to get in. So this right here is the first of many loads that I'm going to have to bring into here in order to fill it up, especially for how deep I want this section. People ask me a lot, what kind of wood chips should they use? Should they avoid any wood chips? Nope. All wood chips, they'll work fine. Actually, any organic matter will work fine because it all breaks down in compost to the same thing. And by the time it's bioavailable for the roots and the plants, it's composted down to a finished state. It doesn't matter right now if these pine needles are acidic. By the time they break down and that becomes available for the roots, it won't be acidic anymore. It should be at that about perfect pH. So it doesn't matter if they're walnut chips, if they're pine. What you want is a good mix though. You want the needles, the leaves, and the smaller stuff if you wanted to break down quicker. So in this area right here, I don't have any wild violet growing, so I can start to get the wood chips down. There's no way I'm going to be able to cover this whole section tonight and show you guys. So I'm just going to show you this area here, how deep I actually want it. And this is it right here. About this height. That's how deep I want it. There's no way any weeds are going to be coming through any section when it's that deep. Then I'm just going to be transplanting, like I said, in the future, come spring, I'll be able to pull a small section back like this, and then transplant right into the dirt. We don't plant into the wood chips. We plant right into the dirt. The wood chips is just a mulch. So I'll transplant right into here, and then I'll bring the wood chips back around the base, only about 4 inches, 4 to 6 inches. You don't want wood chips 10 inches around young plants. It's just not gonna work out. And then in the section about around here, I'll have a deeper 10-inch wood chip. This way, the only section that any weeds could possibly come up are where my plants are. Everywhere else, the weeds are gonna die back because they're gonna be suffocated and not have any oxygen. So this first initial step right here, getting the wood chips down, getting the weeds out, I know it's not exciting. It might not be the most fun to watch, but this is so important, guys. These are where the real investments are made. Because in my opinion, the foundation to a successful food forest is the forest floor. You want to get a nice forest floor in to maintain that healthy food forest coming in the future. So that's the first step to getting your food forest started, getting those weeds out, getting a good foundation in. So in the winter you can do your research and get the right stuff in the first time. So you can turn an area like this, dead, not much growing, to an area where you have lush, a food forest. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for following along. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. See you in the next one.